So hello everybody. So we will be continuing from the previous torsion chapter, and today at first we will be discussing with the torsion of a tapering shaft. So to start with, let us consider a tapered shaft which has a smaller radius of r minus r dash, and it increases and makes a larger radius of r plus r dash. So let the torque acting on the shaft be capital T. So for our consideration, let us consider a small infinitesimal strip of length del x, which is at a distance of x from the smaller end, that is from r minus r dash. Therefore at del x the radius will be of the shaft will be how much? The radius will be of the shaft will be nothing but the smaller radius, that is r minus r dash, plus the incremental radius up to del x. So what is the incremental radius? The incremental radius is how much? It is r plus r dash minus r minus r dash, that is twice r dash, into, by unitary method, into x for the whole length, x by L. Okay. So twice r dash is the incremental for the whole length, and for the length x it is twice r dash into x by L is the incremental radius at del x. So the radius of the shaft at the infinitesimal portion del x will be r minus r dash plus the incremental portion, that is twice r dash, into x by L. So if that is the radius, then from the torsion equation we can say that the twist for that small length will be TL by Gj. Here L will be how much? L will be del x. So just put T del x into divided by G into, put the value of J. J means pi d to the power 4 by 32. What is D? D is nothing but twice R. So it is pi r to the power 4 by 2. So what is R? R for del x is nothing but r minus r dash plus twice r dash into x by L. So the twist will be T into del x into 2 divided by G pi into that radius of the shaft whole to the power 4. So that is for the incremental length del x. So if we consider for the total length, so it will be how much? So the total length of, or total angle of the twist will be how much? That is equal to theta. So theta will be equal to the integration of that twist for the small length, that is theta equals to the T by Gj, where G and T are constant for that shaft, so it will be coming outside of the integration. So it is 2T by G pi, pi is also constant, 0 to L, because for the total length the angle of twist we need to find out, because here for a tapered shaft the angle of twist is not constant, but for a normal continuous shaft which is not tapered, in that case the angle of twist is constant. But this is a tapered shaft, for this the angle of twist is not constant, therefore it is the integration of 2T by G pi from 0 to L dx by r minus r dash plus twice r dash into x by L whole to the power 4. So if you just perform this integration, it's nothing but just dx by, just you simplify the other things, or you put it in the general formula of integration, that is x to the power n plus 1 by n plus 1. So by putting that general formula, what we get, the result leads to minus T by 3G pi into 1 by r dash in the brackets 1 by r plus r dash whole to the power 3 minus 1 by r minus r dash whole to the power 3. So the above equation, this is in brackets, in can be simplified into cubical terms. So theta can also be written as twice TL by 3G. So the minus sign can be multiplied inside. So it becomes 1 by r minus r dash whole to the power 3 minus 1 by r plus r dash whole to the power 3. If you simplify it, it will result in the in the denominator it will be r2 cube into r1 cube, because the other terms of r dash will get nullified or cancelled, and in the numerator you will get r1 square plus r1 r2 plus r2 square. So here we put r2 is equals to r plus r dash and r1 is equals to r minus r dash. Just to simplify those terms and write in r1 and r2 form. So you can just multiply the other terms and perform the simplification process in terms of r and r dash also. So you will get a separate result as per your simplification. So now the topic is strain energy in torsion. So when we apply the torque T to a shaft, what happens? It gets twisted by an angle theta. So gradually when you apply some load on a body, it gets displaced by some length, say del L. So what happens? Due to that displacement or due to that twist, here there is some work done. So some work is done on the shaft or on the body. If it is a normal tension or a compression force, then it's some longitudinal strain acting on it, and if it is a twisting force, then it gets twisted by an angle, say theta. So in both the cases, in normal loading or in normal twist, what happens? There is some work done due to the angular or linear displacement which is stored by the form of strain energy. So in case of any sort of torsion, what happens? Due to the twist angle, there is a there is a work is done. There is some work is done, and the work is stored in the form of strain energy. So from the equation of twist, we know that T by J is equals to tau by R is equals to G theta by L. So T and theta are related in linear relation. So as T and theta is related in linear relation, so the curve between T theta is a straight line. So as it is a straight line, so the area under the curve is a right angle triangle. So this right angle triangle gives you the work done which is stored in the form of strain energy. So directly you can find out the strain energy by computing the work done by computing the area of the right angle triangle subtended by the T theta curve. So it is how much? Half into base into y, that is half into T into theta. So half into T into, from the equation we know theta equals to TL by Gj. So half into T square L by Gj. So we can compute this value for the strain energy for a solid shaft as well as for a normal hollow shaft. So for a solid shaft, we know that T is equals to how much? Pi d cube by 16 into tau. Directly we can put this value because we know that J equals to pi d cube by 4 by 32 and R equals to D by 2. So also we know that theta is equals to tau L by Gj. So tau into L by G into D by 2, that is twice tau L divided by G into D. So we know that the strain energy is half into T into theta. Just put the values of T and theta. We get half into pi d cube into tau by 16 into twice tau into L by GD. So this 2 gets cancelled. So this 16 can be written as 4 into 4. So we can just put the this D gets cancelled. So we are left with pi d square by 4 into tau square into L by 4. So we can just rearrange these things and write as tau square by 4G into pi d square by 4 into L. So pi d square by 4 is the surface area into L is the volume. So tau square by 4G into volume is the total strain energy. So the strain energy per unit volume is nothing but equals to tau square by 4G for a solid shaft. So similarly, for a hollow shaft, the expression of strain energy is same, just here the value of your J just gets differs. So it is half into T into theta, where half into T is equals to pi capital D minus 2 by 4 minus small d by 4 divided by 16D into tau into twice tau into L into GD divided by GD. So here also just take tau square by 4G as common. We get capital D square plus small d square divided by capital D square into, in brackets, that is the area, that is pi by 4 into capital D square minus small d square into L. So that is the area, surface area into length is the volume of the hollow shaft. So we get tau square by 4g into capital D square plus small d square divided by capital D square into volume. That is the strain energy per unit volume for a hollow shaft. Now this value for this hollow shaft, or the value of tau square by 4g for a solid shaft, is the value of the mean strain energy, or the mean value of the strain energy. So as we know that the shear stress, it varies from the center of a shaft to the maximum radius or the maximum diameter. That is, the shear stress is 0 at the center of the shaft and is maximum at the outer layers, that is at the outer radius. So therefore the strain energy due to torsion also varies from 0, because strain energy is proportional to the square of the shear stress. So it should vary from 0 at the center and to a maximum value at the surface. So if you just the value that is obtained from the relation, that is tau square by 4g, is the mean strain energy per unit volume. So mean strain energy means it's 0 plus some maximum value per unit volume divided by 2. That is, maximum value per unit volume divided by 2 is the mean strain energy, that is tau square by 4g. So tau square by 4g into 2 is the maximum strain energy per unit volume. So the maximum strain energy per unit volume is nothing but tau square by 2g. So we'll be proceeding to the next slide. So in this slide we'll be continuing with shafts in series and parallel connection. So multiple number of shafts can be connected to transmit powers. Suppose in huge bodies where higher power needs to be transmitted, or a power needs to be transmitted from a bigger shaft to a smaller shaft, then in that case a combination of shafts can be used to transmit the power. So the connection of shafts can be in series or it can be in parallel. So you can see the one that is combined in a series of shafts, that is called stepped shafts. Those are called stepped shafts, and which are connected in parallel connection, these are called composite shafts. So you can see them in the figure, the stepped shafts where the size of the shaft varies and it's connected in series, and in parallel shaft the axis remains the same, or the axis of the shafts are parallel to each other in the parallel shafts, and in that case you see that the case is called the composite shafts. So first, the shafts in series. So when two shafts are joined in a series and a single torque is applied to both the shafts, that means you apply only once the torque, or a single torque is applied, and that torque is applicable to both the shafts. So both the shafts are subjected to same torque, but due to their sizes, in addition to the application of same torque, the twist angle varies. The twist angle varies, and due to the size, what happens? Which value varies? The value of the polar moment of inertia, J, it varies according to the shaft, according to the size of the shaft or the diameter of the shaft. So as the value of the J varies with R, thereby the twist angle varies according to the shaft. So we can say that T is same for both the shafts, is equals to J1 tau 1 by R1 is equals to J2 tau 2 by R2, because T1 and T2 are both the same. So T is equal to, from the torsion equation we know that also T is equal to G1 J1 theta 1 by L1 is equal to G2 J2 theta 2 by L2. So combining these two, we can write that the angle of twist is the sum of the angle of twist of each of the shafts. So the total angle of twist is the sum of the angle of twist of each of the shafts. So theta is equals to, total theta is equals to theta 1 plus theta 2, where theta 1 is equals to T L1 by G1 J1 plus T L2 by G2 J2 is the total theta. Now the shaft in parallel. So when two shafts are joined in parallel, the torque applied to the composite shaft is now the sum of the torques of the individual shafts. So this T1 is the torque for the shaft 1 and T2 is the torque for the shaft 2. So now what will happen? So T is the summation of both the torques, that is G1 J1 theta 1 by L1 T plus G2 J2 theta 2 by L2. So if in this case, if we consider that the theta value of theta, that is the angular twist, and the length of the shaft are same, so theta by L can be taken as common. So T is equals to theta by L G1 J1 plus G2 J2. Therefore from this we can say that the angle of twist can be calculated as TL by G1 J1 plus G2 J2. Now up to the previous slide we have studied that the shafts were subjected to only torsional force, or those were the case of pure torsion, that is there were no effects of any effects of bending present in the shafts. Now if due to the self weight or due to the inertia force, if there is some bending occurring on the shafts, then what happened? The shafts are then subjected to both the torsion as well as the bending moments. So the shear stress is produced from the torsional moment and the bending stress is produced from the bending moment. Now due to the bending moment there is also a shear force produced. So shear stress is also produced from that shear force, because bending moment is caused from that shear force only. So the shear stress is also produced from the shear force, but in this case we will not take into account the shear stress produced from the shear force. Why? Because in this case the shear stress is maximum at the surface, that is maximum at the maximum radius, that is at the surface, and minimum at the neutral axis or at the center line, whereas the shear force produced by the shear stress produced by the shear force is value is the maximum at the neutral axis, but at the neutral axis the bending stress is 0. We know that the neutral axis varies with y, that is the distance from the neutral axis. The bending stress varies with y, linearly with y. That is, what is y? Y is the distance from the neutral axis, that is as much as we go from the neutral axis the value of the bending stress increases. So the maximum bending stress is occurred on the circumferential length, which is the farthest distance from the neutral axis. So at the neutral axis the value of the bending stress is minimum or 0, but in that neutral axis the shear stress due to the shear force is maximum. So that is not important in this case. Rather the forces that are present in the surface, that is at the circumferential level, that is the shear stress from torsion and the bending stress from the bending moment, are the most important part. So here let us consider a shaft of diameter d subject to a bending moment of m and a twisting moment of capital T. So you can see it in the figure. So what you can see, for the solid shaft we know from the bending stress chapter that sigma b or the bending stress is equals to 32 m by pi d cube, and from torsion we know that the shear stress tau is equals to 16 t by pi d cube, where sigma b is the maximum bending stress at the circumferential level, that is at small r equal to capital R, and tau is the maximum shear stress due to twisting. Now in the previous slide we have shown, in the figure it is shown that the maximum the vertical diameter is AB and the horizontal diameter at the surface is XX. So for vertical loading on the shaft the maximum bending stress occurs at those vertical diameters, that is at point A and at point B. Also the maximum value of shear stress occurs at the maximum diameter, everybody knows, we have also studied, that is at the outer surface. So considering no normal stress on the longitudinal planes of the shaft, that is along the longitudinal plane, along the length of the shaft, we don't consider any sort of normal bending stress. So if we consider this as our situation, then we get two values of the maximum and minimum principal stress and the maximum shear stress. So first the maximum principal stress. So what will be the maximum principal stress? So maximum principal stress sigma or sigma 1 is equal to half of sigma b, that is half of bending, plus half of root over sigma b square plus 4 tau square. That is where sigma b is the maximum bending stress and tau is the maximum shear stress. So just putting the values of sigma b, that is 16 m by pi d cube, and tau is 16 t by pi d cube, we just come to the conclusion that the maximum principal stress is equal to 16 by pi d cube capital M plus root over capital M square plus capital T square, where M and T are the equivalent, M and T are the bending moment and the twisting moment. So this value of half M plus root over M square plus T square is called the equivalent bending moment, which will produce the same amount of maximum bending stress on the shaft. Now what will be the maximum shear stress? Maximum shear stress is nothing but half of that other portion, that is root over sigma b square plus 4 tau square. So putting the values of sigma b and tau, we get maximum shear stress tau max is equals to 16 by pi d cube root over m square plus t square. So here also this root over m square plus t square will be the maximum equivalent bending moment, which will this will be the equivalent twisting moment, this will be the equivalent twisting moment, which would produce the same maximum twist. So it will produce the same maximum twist as well as the same shear stress. Thank you. So lastly, the minimum value of the principal stress could be calculated, that is sigma 2 is equals to half of sigma b minus half of root over sigma b square plus 4 tau square. So putting the value of sigma b, that is 32 m by pi d cube, and tau as 16 t by pi d cube, we compute it directly as 16 by pi d cube in brackets capital M plus root over m square plus t square. So this is the value of the minimum principal stress. So the value for the principal planes are given by tan through theta is equals to 2 tau, that is twice of the shear stress divided by sigma x minus sigma y. Now in this case, in the previous slide we have already seen that we consider it to be the bending stress to be only in x direction, that is there is no normal stress in the y direction. So sigma y becomes 0. So just we put the values of tau and sigma x in here. So tau is 16 t by pi d cube and sigma x equals to 32 m by pi d cube. So pi d cube and pi d cube gets cancelled. 16 into 2 32 also gets cancelled from both the numerator and denominator. So we are left with t by m. So the tan inverse to the ratio of t by m will give the principal planes, that is the value of 2 theta. So the explanation is up to this part only. So in the next PowerPoint presentation, we will be dealing with the numericals related to the combined bending and torsion, the composite and the step shafts, and also the numericals related to the strain energy in torsion. Thank you. Thank you everyone.